Hello and welcome back. Today I am sitting down and doing a little bit of a chit chat, get ready with me. I am doing literally nothing today, but I felt like putting on a little bit more of a fuller face, a little bit more of a dramatic eye, and I really love how it turned out, and I hope you do too. I hope you enjoy this tutorial. I have all the products that I use listed down below in the description box if there's anything that you wanted to check out. But with that out of the way, let's get started. Just before I started filming, I poked myself in the eye, so that happened, and now my eye is swollen and irritated a little bit, and hopefully that will go down as I continue to put my makeup on and let it kind of sit and do its thing, because right now, wow, it is not feeling good. I think some of my skincare must have gotten in there too, because it stings. So I'm going to just keep going, we'll roll with it, and hopefully everything turns out in the end. So I'm going to start by applying some primer. I'm going to use the MAC Prep and Prime Natural Radiance Base. I have the shade Radiant Pink. It came with something. It's a little sample size. It came with an order. Maybe an order from MAC, maybe an order from Nordstrom. I don't remember. But I don't think I've used it. I'm just going to take, it looks like a good amount, and try, oh, it's very thick. It seems like there's a lot more there than I originally thought. And I'm just going to apply this over the entirety of my face. I'm excited because I actually have things to talk about today. Normally when I try to film, like, get ready with me's, I completely forget all of the things that I had intended to talk about. And then I end up just turning it into, like, a regular tutorial where I just talk about what I'm putting on my face. But a lot of the times I actually sit down with the intention of talking about things, and then I never do. I do think that today I actually have enough to keep going throughout the entirety of the video. For foundation, I'm going to use the Haley's Beauty Reform Liquid Luxe Luminous Finish Liquid Foundation, and I have the shade 2.15. I bought a bunch of Haley's Beauty stuff when they were on sale. All the foundations were like $10, and I'm like, okay, I want to try Haley's. They're doing an awesome sale. I can't wait to try all these foundations. And then it turned out they all got discontinued. So I bought all these foundations, I bought three foundations, but they're all discontinued. So I'm like, well, how am I going to review this? Or how am I going to use this on my channel? And what if I really like it and I want to recommend it and I can't because it's discontinued? I think there's a couple of retailers that still have old stock, but I'm not sure what exactly is happening with the foundations. I know that they've repackaged and they've reintroduced some products, but I have no idea what's going on with the foundations. So I just pumped a couple of pumps out onto the back of my palette, and I'm going to work off of there. I have the Haley's Beauty foundation brush, so I'm going to try using that first to apply. I honestly don't even remember if I've ever even used this foundation since I got it, because it was discontinued pretty closely after I received it. So this might as well just be a first impressions of that too. It looks nice. The finish so far on top of that primer is looking really nice. Glowy. It is supposed to be a luminous finish. So far that's looking to be pretty true. That looks like really good coverage. It looks like a good medium coverage. I just played with the lighting, so hopefully it shows up better. It looked a little bit dark in the viewfinder. The whole reason I went into using this foundation today is I had a dream last night that I used this foundation, and I really liked it. So I pulled all my Haley's Beauty stuff, and I figured I'd give it a go when I was doing my makeup this morning. And so far, I think that looks really nice. It doesn't look heavy. It looks like there's good medium coverage. I don't even feel like I need to go in and spot conceal or cover any kind of redness. It really does look like all of my problem areas were covered. I think that looks really good. Now I'm sad it's discontinued. Well, now I'm more sad it's discontinued. So back to the $1 Billion Brows sponge. My Real Techniques sponge has lived its last day. I was trying to clean all of my brushes and the sponges, and it just finally got to that point where it had that big bulb in the middle that wasn't washing out, and there was no way around it. So I'll have to repurchase some of those sponges because I really like them. I really like the sponge though, so I don't mind coming back to it. And I've got more Haley's Beauty and $1 Billion Brows sponge backups. So it's not like I'm hurting in the sponge department right now. I do have the Haley's Beauty Revive Concealer, so I am going to try using that, even though I don't really think I need a lot of concealer coverage, but I just want to see how all the products are going to pair together. So I'm just going to take a very tiny amount underneath my eye. I did do a test spot to see if it would work as a spot concealer, but this shade is too light. This is Fair Light Neutral. I know I've tried using this concealer in the past and I didn't love it, but I don't remember why. Now that I'm applying it, I don't remember why I didn't like it in the past. I still don't like it. It's not working for me the way I was really hoping it would. I think that they've re-released this concealer, or it's a new packaging, or they've just re-released a new concealer altogether. But this is not working. This is not working out for me at all. It went on looking really creamy, and when I swatched it on my hand, it looked really creamy, but it's not working underneath my eye. It looks really dry and it's really enhancing the texture and just the situation of my under eye. It looks really nice in the viewfinder right now, but when I'm looking up close, I don't like what I see at all. So I think that this one is gonna be a pass. It's like not even sticking underneath my eye right here. There's like a huge bald patch. Now that I've blended out the concealer underneath my eyes and tried to fix it and had to fix the whole foundation because I moved the foundation around, I am going to attempt to set my under eye and just move on from that fiasco. I do have the Haley's Beauty Retouch setting powder, and I'm going to apply that using my Tati Beauty my Tati Beauty little powder puff. I really like this for applying powder underneath the eyes. It's done a really good job at smoothing out that area. I don't think you can get these little puffs anymore, but you can get similar ones off of Amazon. I've got my puff and I fold it in half like a little taco, and I try to get it as small as possible to keep it as close to the lash line as possible. And I'm looking up, the most up that I can, to really get to that lower lash line area. And I'm still going to be using creams, so I don't want to over powder underneath the area. I really just want to concentrate that powder right where my fine lines are. I don't love the way that it's looking, but I think that's more of a concealer problem and not a powder problem. So I will put the powder aside to use again later. I was just taking a coffee break and I realized I didn't talk about my coffee mug yet. My mother-in-law gave me this. Someone gave it to her, or she somehow found it, and she thought it would be really fun to pass it along to me because I love to have cute coffee mugs, and she wanted to be someone who gave me a cute coffee mug. So shout out to my mother-in-law, Elisa, for finding this super cute coffee mug for me to have and to show off. I really appreciate it. I do think it's really cute and I enjoy drinking out of it. So it looks like more of a display mug, but I really am liking the weight of it and how much it holds. So far, works really well as a coffee mug. Speaking of my mother-in-law, moving on from the terrible concealer incident and moving on to happier things, my mother-in-law finally got her citizenship. I'm so excited. We've been celebrating for weeks. I just can't believe it. I'm so excited. She's been here for about 30 years. And she finally was able to apply for the citizenship test. She took the test, she passed it, she did so well. And then about a week later, they had her citizenship ceremony where they gave her a certificate. They welcomed her into the country as an official citizen. It was just so nice. So I threw her an impromptu party. Makes it seem like there was an actual party, but it wasn't like a real party. When she did her test, we weren't really sure. We didn't want to like pre-plan anything in case something happened. So we were waiting on pins and needles just to hear whether or not she'd pass. And you find out the same day if you pass. So she called us. I was crying. She was crying. It was so exciting. And we went to the store and we picked up a bunch of really American things. I wanted to throw her like an America party. And I played really like patriotic music to celebrate. And it turns out when I was looking online for ideas that people throw citizenship parties all the time. So there was like playlists and little things you could get. It was too late for us to really get some of those things. But I thought it was just so fun that we were able to find some things to really celebrate her becoming an official citizen. So we did the impromptu party. We got Bud Light. We got Bud. I think I bought Bud beer. Not that she drinks beer, but I was thinking, what is something super American, and what's more American than like Bud or Miller? So I picked up Bud because it was the first one I found in the cooler. What else? I feel like there was more stuff that we brought, but I am blanking on the other party things. And his dad has his citizenship test coming up in the next couple of weeks. I don't know why they did them separately. They sent out the notices a couple of weeks apart. So she got hers first, and now his dad is going to go in a few weeks and take his test. And then once he passes, we'll do like a more appropriate party, I guess. We'll like actually plan one out and invite more people to really celebrate, because it is so exciting. It was such a hard test. Like, you hear that it's a hard test, but I was helping her study, and they give you 100 questions that are possibly going to be asked to you, and they're only going to ask 10 of those 100 questions. So it's kind of nice that they give you like the answer key and you know what you have to study. But some of the questions I didn't understand. I didn't understand like why they were questions. But it was kind of like fun to look over those questions and see what I remembered from high school, or what I knew, or what I need to study. I am going to leave the base here for now, and I'm going to move on to my eyes. I'm going to do one eye off camera, and then I'll come back and walk you through what I did. I'm going to be using the Natasha Denona Biba palette for this look. I'm starting with my Smith 232, and I'm going to dip into the shade Tone, which is one of the cream to powder formulas. And I'm just going to run that along the crease, trying to avoid getting it on the lid. I really want this to just stay as like a transition shade. So I'm running this a little bit higher, and I'm making sure the bottom of my brush is like going in to my eye socket. And I'm holding fairly far back on the brush to avoid putting a lot of pressure. And I'm just letting the bristles do the work. Now on my Smith 230, I'm going to use the shade Rayon, which is another cream to powder formula, and I'm dipping that in very lightly. And I'm going to tilt my head back, and then my eye is open and I've got full access directly into the crease, and I'm just keeping this in the crease. And I'm going to go back in with my Smith 232 and just blend those two edges together. On my Smith 247, on the very tip of the brush, I'm going to take the shade Pasha, and I'm going to keep that along the crease as well, and just really deepen up the outer V first. And I'm going to very lightly form a shape, and I'll fill that in the next step. But right now I just want to create a shape where the shadow is going to go. So again, I'm holding my head back so I've got full access to the crease, and I'm very lightly drawing a line in the crease with the shade. And once I've got the general idea of how far I want the shade to go across, that's when I'm going to go to the bottom lash line, and I'm going to start there and lightly flick upward, kind of like I'm making a wing. And I'm just going to connect the bottom lash line, or to where the top shade is in the crease. And I'm only taking this about halfway, not even fully halfway through the bottom lash line, kind of mirroring where it stopped in the crease on the upper lid. And now I'm going to take the shade Pasha, which is the shade we were just using. So it's no longer just on the tip, it's also on the flat side of the brush as well. And I'm going to knock off the excess. And then within that shape that we created, that V shape, I'm going to press the shade in the outer corner and just fill that in. And you can repeat this step a couple of times if you wanted to build up the intensity, or you could just leave it there if you like where it's at. I'm going to go back in with my Smith 230, and just using whatever's left over on the brush, I'm going to very lightly blend over those edges just to soften those harsh lines. And I'm holding far back on the brush so that the bristles are what's doing the work, not the pressure. I'm just very lightly touching my eye area, very gentle strokes and movements, so that I'm not moving anything around. I'm not really shifting where the color was laid down. I'm just softening over those edges. And then I'll soften over onto the lid as well, so that there's not just such a drastic line of shadow. It kind of softens into the middle portion of the eye where there hasn't been any product applied yet. On my rougher 13, I'm taking the shade Tone, which is the first shade that I applied on the top lid as a transition, and I'm going to run that along the lower lash line and continue to soften out that shade on the bottom, as well as extend that towards the inner corner. Now on my Dose of Colors eyeshadow brush, I'm taking the shade Seed on the flat side, and first I'm going to deepen up the lower lash line, and I'm keeping that really close to the lashes and almost going into the actual waterline. And I want this to stay in the outer portion. I don't want this to travel inwards, so I'm really focusing on keeping that in the back most outer V. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the top lid, where I'm really hugging the lash line first, and then slowly I'll make my way up towards the crease a little bit just to deepen up that area even more. And then to blend around those edges, I'm going to use the Smith 247 with the shade Pasha, with no new product on it, just whatever's left over, and go over those lines. Make sure there's no harsh edges, and everything kind of forms a gradient from one color to the next. And then working backwards from Pasha to Rayon, and then back to Tone, just tie back in that transition shade. And I'm just going back in and deepening up the outer corner. I noticed that the other eye looked a lot deeper, so just to match the two, I am going to go back in and add a little bit more Seed. And now on my Smith 253, I'm taking the shade Tusk, and I'm going to apply that to the inner 2/3 where no product was applied, and I'm pressing that on the inner corner first. I'm going to take my 247 with the shade Pasha, and I'm going to pat over that and diffuse that line between Tusk and Pasha and Seed. And I'm pressing and wiggling so that it all looks a little bit more flowy, a little bit more cohesive. I'm just going to clean up the lower lash line using the rougher 13 and the shade Tone. I didn't add any new product, just whatever's left on there, and just soften over everything. With my little finger, I'm taking the shade Monroe, and I'm going to pop that on the inner corner, and then along the brow bone. I'm going to use the Melt Slick Waterline Eye Pencil in the shade Cacao, and I'm going to line my upper lash line. I'm going to tight line, and this pencil is creamy, so it can get everywhere, and it sets down pretty fast, so you have to be more precise. So I definitely recommend working with a sharp tip every time you're using this one. Otherwise, it definitely can travel before it sets down. And I'm only taking this about 2/3 of the way through, and I'm leaving where we put the Tusk shade with no eyeliner. This is really just emphasizing the lash line and adding more fullness. And then on the lower lash line, I'm only going to keep this as far as we applied Seed in the outer corner. I'm not pulling this all the way across. I'm going to use the Milk Makeup Kush Mascara for my lashes today. I just opened this tube and it already feels very dry. I used to love this mascara. I've purchased this mascara. This particular tube was sent to me, but I have purchased this myself in the past and I loved it. And now I feel like this tube is not performing the way I remember. It's very dry and clumpy and flaky and transfers. And I'm pulling that mascara just on the tip of the wand. across my lower lashes. I figured I'd do my brows before I zoomed you out, and I'm using the Ulta Beauty Ultra Slim Brow Pencil in the shade Brunette, and I am just brushing out the hairs to make sure that there's no product buildup and that everything is going generally in the same direction. Now that the hard part of the eyes are out of the way, I can continue telling you some exciting stuff that's been going on. I'm very excited. I don't even know how everything kind of fell in place for this to happen. Someone had commented on an older video of mine that I had posted about a year ago or longer, and they were asking about some foundation shades, and I had said that I would go to the Sephora near me because I don't mind running out and doing something like that, especially if it's going to help someone who is watching my videos or someone who's got a question about something. I am here to be as helpful as possible. So I was like, absolutely, I will go to Sephora. I offered to go to Sephora so that I could show her what a few different shades of a particular foundation looked like. And she asked while I was there if I could get a swatch or sample of another product. But it turned out that the Sephora that I went to did not have that in stock. They didn't have what she was looking for. So I checked at the Ulta by me and they had it in stock. So I was like, all right, whatever, I'll just go tomorrow. So I went to Sephora one day and I was going to Ulta the second day. And while I was there, there was a mom and her daughter and they were talking to the sales associate, and the daughter looked to be about 13 and she was almost in tears. She looked so overwhelmed, and the sales associate was asking all sorts of questions, and the mom was answering, not really the daughter, and it was for the daughter's face. The daughter wanted to get her makeup done. I guess it was her school dance that night, and the person who was supposed to do her makeup bailed, so they came to Ulta. They had called Ulta to see if Ulta did makeup, and I guess whoever they talked to said, yes, we do makeup, but then they came into the store and they wouldn't do her makeup. There was some kind of problem with her makeup. They wanted her to buy something first. I don't know. So when the sales associate and the mom walked away, I went over to the girl and I was asking her, is there anything I can do to help you? I said, I know a little bit about makeup. I can try to help with whatever questions you have. And she explained it's her 8th grade graduation dance and her sister was supposed to do her makeup, but her sister bailed at the last minute and she doesn't know what to do, and so she's really overwhelmed. She doesn't know anything about makeup at all. So I walked her through a couple of my favorite products that are at Ulta. The Hourglass Scattered Lights and the Tarte Maneater palette and just a couple of things like that. But then a different sales associate came and took her away. Her and the mom left, so I didn't get to finish talking to her about anything. So I was just hoping that the sales associate helped, because the sales associate, I guess, started telling them that she's a makeup artist outside of working at Ulta, and if they wanted to go to her house after she got off work, they could pay her to do her makeup, but she lived pretty far away, I guess. I don't know. So they ended up leaving. The Ulta associate told them to go to Sephora, which is actually one of the things I said to the girl too, was that she could go to Sephora to get her makeup done. And so then I was asking the same sales associate if she had the product, because it says online that Ulta had the product in store for me to check out, to swatch or whatever. And then I couldn't find the stand for the product. While I was talking to the sales associate, the mom came back in and she ran up to me and she said, "Oh my God, can you please do my daughter's makeup? My daughter loved talking to you. She was so comfortable with you. Please, we'll pay you. Can we please come over? Can you please do her makeup?" And I was like, absolutely. And it's so funny because I had just washed all of my brushes, all of my powder brushes, all of my foundation brushes, all of my eyeshadow brushes, every single brush I had cleaned. And sponges, but that's not really important. I had cleaned everything. I was reorganizing and doing all this stuff and for no reason. And so I thought that was really cool that I went to Ulta and I ran into this girl who needed help, and I actually had clean brushes. I didn't have to over disinfect anything. And so she came over, her and her mom came over, and I put her in the chair that I'm sitting in now, and I did her makeup. I used the Patrick Ta palette on her eyes, and I used the Charlotte Tilbury cream eyeshadow that I love so much to brighten up the inner corner, and it looked beautiful. She looked flawless. Before I zoom you out here, the eye's all finished. It took about an hour to do everything, between using micellar water to clean her face and then using some skincare to prep, primer, foundation, all of that. And she didn't really know what she wanted, so it was kind of just I had to figure it out. I mean, I've applied makeup on people before, never a stranger, never a stranger that I picked up in an Ulta, but I've done other people's makeup. I've done my mom's makeup and some friends for some shows that we've done in the past. So I'm not completely new to applying makeup on other people. It was just such a fun experience, and so kind of out of the blue and out of the norm of what normally happens across what I do in my regular life, to find someone that needed help and to have all of the right things in place to help that person. It just was so fun. I'm trying to figure out how I want to finish off the base. I'm looking at everything, and I kind of want to use one of the Rare Beauty bronzers. I've got two shades. I've got Happy Soul and Power Boost, and I'm wondering if I want to use the bronzer. I'm so used to just using cream products that I forget that I have powder products that work too. So I'm going to use the Gucci Soleil bronzer, and I have the shade 1, and I'm going to use my Hailey's Beauty powder brush. I have two. One of them was given to me by the brand, and the other one I bought because I think this is an amazing powder brush, and I wanted to have one for powder and one for bronzer. So I'm just going to tap in a couple of times to the Gucci bronzer, and I'm going to tap off the excess, and I'm just going to start applying that very gently and lightly on my cheeks. I really like this shade because it's like a sunburned bronzer blush color, and I was thinking that it would pair really well with the deeper kind of purpley tones, the like red, brown, purple tones that I used on my eyes. And then I'm softly pulling that towards the center of my face. No new product, just whatever's left over on the brush, just across the center and my nose, just so that it's a little bit softer going from the center of my face towards the outer perimeter. And for blush, I'm going to use the Bloomeffects Monochromatic Blush Duos in the shade Warm Honey. And I'm just going to use the matte side, and I'm going to apply that to the apple of my cheek. And I'm just going to blend that in with the bronzer. And I'm pulling that up a little bit higher towards my under eye. I'm going to pull any excess to my forehead and go over where I put that bronzer, and then pull a little bit more on my chin. I'm going to set my face using the Veil Soft Focus Setting Spray from Hourglass. And I'm just going to push that in with my sponge, really set everything in place, blend over any kind of harsh lines that may have shown up. I just grabbed a lip liner. This is the NYX retractable lip liner in the shade Sand Beige. I actually don't remember what this looks like, so hopefully this matches. And I always trace the lip line going upwards to help create more of an illusion of a full upper lip. And I'm just going to go on top of that with the Tower 28 lip gloss in the shade Oat. And here's the completed look. I think I did okay with the chit chat part of the chit chat get ready with me. I didn't talk about as much as I was really hoping that I would. I just get so in the zone sometimes that I forget to actually talk while I'm doing things. So I do hope you enjoyed the couple of stories I was able to share with you. I really enjoy just sitting and talking to you. That is what I really want my channel to be, just me putting on makeup, talking to you. And I always just feel better when I sit down and I get to talk to you. It helps me feel more like I'm part of the world and I'm not just stuck in the house all day long. So I hope that you enjoy this kind of video. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will see you again very soon in my next video.